This fall, York University launched an initiative aimed at enhancing the representation of Black youth at universities across Canada. It starts by reaching young Black students in high school before they even apply for post-secondary studies in an effort to address the systemic barriers and inequities they may face. With us for more, from the provincial capital, Professor Carl James, who heads up the project. He is York University's Jean Augustine Chair in Education, Community and Diaspora. And in Brampton, Ontario, there's Aliya Clarke, who is an undergrad student at McMaster University in Hamilton. And it's great, Professor James, to welcome you back to our program. And Aliya, nice to meet you for the first time. Professor James, can you just tell us about this three-year initiative that York University has undertaken? What's it about?
It's really looking at how Black youth are not being served effectively in the education system. And so it's a way of complementing and helping them to be able to work towards graduation. And I know there are a number of other graduation programs. I know in Ontario, there is the Black Graduation Coach Program that's funded by the ministry. But this seeks to talk more broadly to Black students and in different contexts. So this national project has, I'm working with colleagues from McMaster University, Julia Daniels, Annette Henry in Vancouver, Kevin Hewitt at Dalhousie, and Jennifer Adams at University of Calgary. And what we're doing, we're working in schools because we're working with grade 10, 11, 12 students. We're going to find out what they're thinking or how they're thinking that they might want to live after high school. So we're going to do research on them. We're going to find out what they're doing now. And because we're going to follow them over a 3-year period, we're going to pay attention to how their ideas have changed or what might have happened in the process of going through university, going through high school to be able to get to graduation. We're doing the same thing with university students during their undergraduate years, paying attention to how they're navigating the education system. But it's not only high school and university that we're interested in, high school graduation. We're also very keen on how students think about going to college versus university and what might go into that decision between college and university. And wherever they choose to go, we want to be able to support them as they go through there. So the funding from Royal Bank will be able to assist us to put programs in place to assist those students and to be able to keep data. And the data will be able to help us to know what we have to adjust, what we have to do differently if we're going to reach the goal that we seek to reach. And so that's basically the program. And the number of schools we're doing in Toronto, and some schools in Ottawa we're doing, and of course Hamilton schools, schools in Halifax, schools in Calgary, and schools in Vancouver. And
the money for this program rather comes from where?
Royal Bank of Canada Foundations, and that's a 3-year funding.
3 years of funding. Okay. Aliya, let's just find out a little bit about you. First of all, we mentioned you're an undergrad student at Mac. What are you taking?
I'm a part of Integrated Business and Humanities. It's a specialized program at McMaster under degree commerce.
And how old are you?
I'm 17.
You're 17. How are you in university at age 17?
My birthday is next month.
Oh, okay. That explains it. That explains it. Do you think it would be, well, let me put it this way. You understand what this program is all about. Would an increase in the number of Black students on the McMaster campus, on any campus, what would that mean to you?
It would mean a lot. Walking through campus, it can be a lot knowing that you're the only person that looks like you going through the area, I guess. Being able to have that family atmosphere would matter a lot, I guess. Coming from Brampton, where there is such a large, diverse population here, it was a really big adjustment going to Hamilton.
In what way?
I've never had to go to a PWI before, so a predominantly white institution. So it was a lot to find the balance between assimilating and actually just being myself. throughout my classes.
Are there many other Black students in the classes that you take?
No.
You're smiling. How come?
It's me, and I believe there's 2 other Black students in my class.
In a class of how many people?
There's about 50, I believe, or 54.
So that explains why you'd like to see a few more folks who look like you.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Back to you, Professor James. I mean, the answer to this question may be obvious, but let's not assume everybody understands. What barriers are there, in your view, in place right now that prevent more Black high school students from going on to post-secondary?
First of all, the streaming, especially when we're trying to ask students, not only Black students, but we're trying to ask students to make a decision about what they want to do post-high school, and we're asking them to make that decision in grade 9. And so streaming is one of those things where we need to start paying attention to, and not because I make a decision that I might want to go to university or go to work immediately after high school that I'm really now set on that path so early. So streaming is one of those things. The assumption that Black students might not be good at particular kinds of programs and academic programs also makes the fact that why they're not going to be seen and be encouraged to go to university and or college. The other thing...
you know what? Can I jump in there for a second, Professor James? Because I don't want to assume that everybody knows what streaming means or how it works. So take a moment, if you would, and just tell us that.
Okay. The idea that students, when they're going into grade 9, the decision is asked. In Ontario, for example, we have locally developed courses, academic courses, and applied courses. And when students are asked, and sometimes parents don't know, sometimes it's the guidance counselor and it's the teachers who tell the students or who say, okay, you can go into academic or you can go to applied or you can go into locally developed. Because in academic courses, you're going direct, that prepares you for university typically. And applied, you might end up going to college, or you can go to work. The assumption is that people are locked into these, and the students might not know, if I choose one, it might not mean I cannot change. So the problem is not only parents should know about this, but students should know about it and know the outcome if you choose one versus the other. So that's how streaming operates. And so that knowledge and lack of that information will operate in the outcomes of students. The other thing that I want to pick on is what Aliya talked about just now, going to university and being the only person in the class, or also few of them in the class. You should, and having no one to be able to help you navigate the system is one of those very, I think, sometimes alienating things for some Black students, especially when they're coming in not having had the kinds of support system at home or at work or at school before. And so that's one of the things we need to pay attention to, is why we do not see them in university, because some of them drop out after a while because you'll wonder, is university for me? I'm not able to cope. Or they might transfer from university to college because they might think university is not meeting my needs or helping me go the way I want to go. So those are very important things we need to take into account.
Let me follow up with Aliya on that. You know, Aliya, on previous programs, I've interviewed young students, for example, from Portuguese homes who have told me, you know what, it was never discussed in my home growing up about ever going to university. I never assumed it would be for me, so I didn't go. So let me find out whether you think that is an issue either in the homes of friends that you have, or a more widely held view in the Black communities of Toronto.
For me personally, I'm a first-generation Canadian, so my family comes from Jamaica. It was never an option for me to not go to university or to go to post-secondary. It was something that was pushed from when I started school. I just knew that high school was never going to be the end, I would be going to university. I feel like when it comes to Black students, especially at school, we're pushed more to graduate more than going to post-secondary, where it's the assumption for Black students that the end of the journey is once you get that high school diploma, not when you walk across the university stage. Whereas for other schools or for other students of other races, I believe that it's pushed a lot more, or it's expected that university is their next step.
In which case, is there any question in your mind but that you will complete your first degree?
I have to.
You have to. Okay. Are you already thinking about a second degree, a master's degree after this one?
I am.
You are. Okay. So that's obviously a potential distinction between your example and examples from other homes where maybe the push to go to post-secondary isn't there. Is that fair to say?
I would say so, because I feel like I had a very strong family structure to help support me throughout the entire journey. I feel as though going to school as a Black student is already enough. And then to add on the work that you have as a university student, you need to have a good support system to be able to push you to go through all of those things, which I feel like is something that a lot of Black students don't necessarily have. Because even for me, coming from a predominantly Black country, my parents couldn't really understand what it was like for me to go through school facing all of these injustices, I guess.
Now, this is something, Professor James, that's not just an issue, as I suggested a moment ago, in the Black communities. We've had Indigenous people on this program. We've had people from the Portuguese community on this program who also have discovered as they grew up that the expectation of going to post-secondary just wasn't there. Do you have any suggestions on how that can be tackled?
I think it differs. It's also significant that Aliya talked about going to university. It was one of the things that her parents expect her. What we find is, in many cases, especially within the Black community, first generation or second generation's kids are expected to go to university. Their parents might not understand fully what it might mean to really navigate the halls of university, but they want their children to be successful. So if you notice, many first generations, if we just look at the statistics related to African Canadians or Black students, you'll notice first generation students tend to do better. They're more likely to go to university than second and third generation, and they're more likely to be the ones who end up graduating and going on to further education. That whole immigrant factor plays a significant role. I have interviewed young people who will say to me, their parents will tell them, I didn't come here for you to be able to play sports. I came here for you to be able to get the education so that I can say that I left where I came from for not only for myself, but for my children to do well. And so that whole generational factor is very important. And you will see it. You'll see it in many other as well.
And let's again, professors, state the obvious here. If you have a university or college education, or if you don't, your prospects for employment and for making a good living are what?
If you haven't, the data shows that increasingly graduating from university or having a university degree is a very, very important thing because jobs now, that you used to have a high school diploma where you will get the job. No, going to university or going to college beyond high school is one of the factors that's going to influence how well you do in the Canadian society.
And Aliya, let me just go, I want to circle back to a bit of a discussion about streaming that Professor James introduced a while ago. Now, when you were in grade 9, what high school did you go to?
David Suzuki.
David Suzuki, which is where?
Brampton.
Okay. When you were there and in grade 9, did you notice that there were other Black students, either in your class or in other classes, who were being streamed into the more technical as opposed to academic side of education?
100%. A lot of the times in my academic classes, I was usually the only Black person in my class. So, especially since I ended up taking like upper level math when I was in grade 10 and 11. So, again, like I was still the only Black person in my class, which was a bit awkward. I feel as far as streaming goes, the best analogy I can use is teachers treat Black students as if they're betting on horses, where unless they see the potential of you making it and being extremely successful, they're not going to put that much effort into your education to get you where you need to go. So a lot of Black students end up getting put into applied classes because that's the easiest means of dealing with them and just, again, getting them to graduate, unless they see you as that star student or that star athlete that is going to make it out of like the regular margins of the average person.
And I guess, Aliya, I should get your reaction to the announcement that was made not that long ago that the government of Ontario intends to end streaming starting next fall. What's your take on that?
I believe that that would help a lot. Speaking to a lot of my own Black friends, because of the way academic is preached to students, it creates a kind of fear that they are incapable of doing such a high level of work, when in reality, a lot of my friends are extremely smart and they would have done very well in these classes. But due to the fact that we have this ideal of what academic classes are supposed to be like, it scares people. So now that we don't have streaming in those beginning years, it can allow students to be a lot more comfortable with the concept of high school and then choose if they want to go to university or college. Because how am I in grade 8 deciding if I'm going to go to university or college and I haven't even got to high school yet?
I hope, Professor James, this is an appropriate follow-up question to ask you, but that is, do you know whether Black teachers stream Black students as much as white teachers streamed Black students?
The research shows that students tend to do much better when they have Black students. Students who have had Black teachers are more likely to graduate, more likely to also go on to university. And so there, of course, there would be, we cannot just simply generalize and say it's Black teachers might not also have certain kinds of ideas of competencies of Black students, but at the same time, the research shows that they also come with an experience of understanding what it means for a Black student to go through school. And also, in this case, many of them will know the expectations of their parents. And, you know, I talk to a number of Black students that will say how much they do well because the teacher, and in this case, the Black teacher, expects them to do well. And we have to start thinking about how teaching and those schooling is so much based on relationships. And if teachers and students can establish that kind of relationship, and if race enables that relationship to be established, you can see how much it's going to be to the benefit of the students.
So there is a curse of low expectations in the education system as well, eh?
Oh, absolutely. And who has those low expectations, and how those low expectations really work out in terms of not enabling and supporting students to attain the aspirations that they and their parents and also family members and other members within the community expect of them.
Well, I do have the numbers here. This is a York University study of the Toronto District School Board, and it found that apparently Black students make up 13% of the school board student population, but they represent 26%, in other words, twice as much, of those students who in grades 9 or 10 were streamed into the applied as opposed to academic program of study. What do you infer from that?
It means that not only that this school, that we have to look at university, but we look at school. And it's also, you know, it's one of those very unusual studies where we're able to follow students from the early years all the way through university. I think you know, those data is important for us to constantly come back to and try to see how much we can change the situation for Black students.
Well, in our last few minutes here, Aliya, I want to find out a little bit more about you. What do you want to be?
I'm don't think I'm sure yet.
So you're taking,
But I know
sorry, go ahead.
Commerce.
You're taking commerce, so you have a sense that you want to do something in the financial realm.
Oh, of course. I know that for sure.
You know that for sure, okay.
Yeah. I know that I haven't had enough access to the different pathways that I can take. And I'm really appreciative of my degree and my program where I'll be able to make those decisions for myself. So I'm really excited to see like what job options I'll be able to go into.
And at any point in your academic career, have you felt as if color held you back somehow?
Oh, of course.
And how did that manifest itself?
For me, it created a lot of self-doubt because I felt as if I constantly had to prove myself that I deserved the equal amount of respect that students that were just being themselves got, if that made sense, where I needed to prove that I was a spectacular student in order to receive the bare minimum of benefits at times.
When you hear a story like that, Carl James, what do you think?
I think how much it's not just the individual student, but how we constantly have to look at the system, the institutional policies, the culture in which these students are trying to navigate and obtain an education. So it's important for us to look beyond just simply these individual. And of course, the achievement that we talked about, whether students graduate or not, cannot be interpreted merely based on how they applied themselves, but think about the culture in which they have to apply themselves to.
Well, I hope, Professor James, you'll keep in touch with us and see how this 3-year program of yours goes. And Aliya, I have no doubt but that in the future at some point, young students are going to be going to the Aliya Clarke High School, just like you went to David Suzuki's high school. You're very impressive. They're going to name a school after you someday, I have no doubt. Thanks for joining us on TVO tonight, you two.
Thank you very much for having us. And thanks very much to Aliya for this opportunity to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.